Congratulations on opening the road to Kadugli, and congratulations to our people in Kadugli, the arrival of the armed forces to it.
The Sudanese army says it's broken the siege on Kadugli, the capital city of South Kordofan state, just days after the army lifted yet another siege laid by the paramilitary rapid support forces on the nearby city of Dalang. What does it mean for the residents and the country? The battle for control between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary RSF will soon enter its third year in April. Some of the country's 18 states have changed hands several times, as others remain contested. Let's take a look at who controls what. The Sudanese army say it holds most areas in 13 states, including the capital Khartoum, after recapturing it last year. The latest recapture of long-besieged and famine-hit Kadugli in southern Kordofan means that residents may now have access to food. While the paramilitary RSF control all 5 states of the Darfur region in the country's west, but the army has limited control in some parts of North Darfur and Al-Fasher. Armed groups like the Sudan Liberation Movement, Abdel Wahid, control parts of Jebel Mara in Darfur, and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement, North, controls pockets in Blue Nile and South Kordofan's Nuba Mountains. The United Nations says around 80% of Kaduguli's population, or 147,000 people, have been uprooted by the fighting. They form part of the nearly 14 million people that have fled their homes across the country, making it the world's largest displacement crisis. This is what Jan Egeland, who is the head of Norwegian Refugee Council, had to say after visiting people who fled from Kadugli to camps in SPLM and territory in South Kordofan.
And I must say I'm shaken to the core because what I saw was massive, unchecked suffering and a complete lack of the international community in responding commensurate to this, which is the biggest and worst conflict zone and the largest starvation crisis.
Regional and international efforts to broker a deal between the army and the RSF have failed to bring any tangible peace. The latest push involves a comprehensive peace plan, which the U.S. says has been agreed by the so-called Quad, made up of the United States, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates. But it is yet to be discussed with the warring parties. Now let's hear more from Alan Boswell, Director for the Horn of Africa at the International Crisis Group. He joins us from Nairobi, Kenya. Thanks for being here. So Boswell, what has caused the recent gains by the Sudanese army? And is this a shift in the war momentum?
Yeah, this is a war that has seen multiple different shifts in momentum at various different times. And yes, I do think we could be seeing a shift now back towards the Sudanese army and its government. For several months now, it's been the other side, the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, which has held the momentum. But now these were very significant gains that the Sudanese army made in the South Kordofan region. I think there might be a few reasons for that, including more extensive and overt backing from some of their outside friends and allies, but also for internal coalition reasons. They're getting a lot of support again from certain militias on their side, both from the Darfur region and ones which have more Islamist ties.
Right, and you know, drones have been at play here because the RSF before were using drones which, you know, the army didn't have. So has that really helped the army in terms of regaining some of the cities and major regions?
Yes, this is a war, just like the shift in momentum. We've seen ongoing escalation and counter-escalation, and especially on the drone front. So yes, it looked like, as of beginning of last year that RSF was getting major new drone technologies. We have seen the Sudanese army escalate its side of the drone warfare as well. This seems to be a constant sort of ladder that both sides are climbing. But yes, the drones, both sides have extensive drone technology, and we have seen the Sudanese army looking to outsiders to help it build up that capacity even more, and that has been crucial.
Just based on what is happening in Sudan right now, will life improve for civilians, who are living in besieged areas of Sudan?
Well, yes, when a siege is broken, of course, and besieged populations have that siege broken, that's that's obviously major for those in that situation. We have seen both sides in this war at various points impose various sorts of siege on various areas in an attempt to capture them. But these RSF sieges, like we saw in Al Fasher in North Darfur, and like we've seen around Kadugli and Dalang in South Kordofan, they have been very brutal and have led to famine-like or famine conditions in several areas. So yes, you would hope that we would see relief flow to some of that population. I think it's too early to tell whether or not that is happening, but that would be a hope.
And, it's good you've used the word brutal because, when you look at what is happening in Sudan, Boswell, could crimes against humanity be prosecuted in this conflict because millions have been displaced and thousands have been killed?
Well, we're not in an era where there is a lot of accountability anywhere, really, for crimes against humanity, war crimes. Interestingly, the International Criminal Court does have an open mandate to pursue investigations in the Darfur region specifically. That dates back to the previous Darfur war some 2 decades ago, and the UN Security Council resolution that gave that power to the ICC. And they have announced investigations in Darfur area that would not extend, for instance, to the Kordofan region, where these recent offensives have taken place, or other parts of Sudan. So you could see some limited investigations from the ICC. Of course, there's other mechanisms that could pursue accountability, but most of those would probably take place, if at all, after some sort of resolution to the war.
Mm-hmm. And just based on what you're saying, so what do you think will take? Actually, what do you think it will take to bring the Sudanese army and RSF to negotiate peace?
Well, the gulf between them is very wide, and has been so for a long time. So wide that the Sudanese army has refused for a long time now to even sit down and negotiate with the RSF directly, which is obviously a huge obstacle as well to getting to a ceasefire. The main diplomatic track that exists to try to get to a ceasefire is this U.S.-led effort, mostly led by Masad Boulos, a special advisor, but also a Trump family in-law. And he's been pursuing a deal with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, who collectively back different sides in this war. They already had agreed to a roadmap to a ceasefire last year in September, but they were unable to essentially get the two sides to actually impose it on the ground. Those negotiations have continued. The U.S. tries to express optimism about it, but it's very difficult because there's a lot of tensions, especially between Saudi Arabia and the UAE over the war in Sudan, which are very much spiking right now. And the two warring sides themselves don't seem any closer to agreeing to a ceasefire either.
And it's good you're talking about Saudi and also the U.S. and, then how different is the new peace deal that's being pushed by Washington from the previous ceasefire deals, and will it succeed?
Well, really, most of these ceasefire deals have revolved around rather similar formula. I think the main question is less the specific formula of the ceasefire deal than when we're at a moment, especially in terms of the regional politics, where the regional powers that are involved in this war are willing to put skin in the game to de-escalate it, to make the guarantees necessary to the warring parties. And to get them to sign up to end this war and get a ceasefire. I think until we see that, there isn't much of a hope that the Sudanese warring parties themselves right now, given all the backing they're receiving from outside parties, are likely to de-escalate on their own. And unfortunately, the regional politics are not going in a de-escalation direction. They're going in an escalation direction. So the U.S., like I said, although it is expressing some public optimism, it's facing significant headwinds to try to get a ceasefire at this moment.
Right. Thank you so much, Alan Boswell, Director for the Horn of Africa at the International Crisis Group. Thank you for talking to us here on Africa Matters.
Thanks for having me.
Well, even though the war is not over in some parts of Sudan, some families that fled the fighting in the capital, Khartoum, are gradually making their way back home after months of displacement. It's now under army control, and Abdallah Hussein finds out how some of them are starting over.
Bus horns signal the arrival of another coach, carrying more than passengers. Inside is hope, mixed emotions, excitement to reach home, longing for familiar streets, and quiet anxiety about what awaits. This is one of Khartoum's main bus stations. Alongside the routine travel, families and individuals are returning, many seeking to restart lives interrupted by months of conflict and displacement, carrying plans, expectations, and the difficult task of starting all over again. Despite the exhaustion, smiles break through. Greetings are exchanged, hands held tightly, small moments marking a long-awaited return to the Sudanese capital of Khartoum.
I'm originally from El Managil, but my home is here in Omdurman. We returned safely, thank God. Omdurman is active again now.
The country and the situation are very good now. I thank the army for this. I came a year ago and left again. But now, I've returned for good, with all of my belongings.
We came from Gadaref State. We're back and hope everyone can return too. We're happy. We found things stable and transport available.
The return comes after the Sudanese military retook the capital from the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces in April last year. According to the humanitarian organization Oxfam, the ongoing civil war has caused the displacement of over 12 million people and has pushed roughly 9 million into famine. Nonetheless, for these returnees, it's a moment of respite.
I am in full support of the demonstrations because this will bring my real independence and disentangle me from this predicament. Right now, it's month-end and rentals are due. Further to that, we also need to eat.
The passengers felt happy as we watched the scenery on the way back. Life at home is different. To those who left, we say, come back. Life here has dignity.
Drivers at this station witness these scenes every day, hearing the first impressions as travelers return to life in the capital.
People come expecting that services, roads and security won't be available, but they're surprised. Transport is running, security is stable, and things are much better than they thought. Some even regret not returning earlier.
Between the steady return of Sudanese families and the reality of Khartoum today, people begin another journey. Challenges still lie ahead, and rebuilding will take time. But for now, one feeling rises above the rest. They are home. Abdallah Hussein, Africa Matters, Khartoum.
Still to come here on Africa Matters.
These Burundians didn't plan to build a life here, but years later, this is where the children grow and routines feel familiar while home remains distant.
Now, speaking of rebuilding lives, we head to Rwanda now, where many Burundian families who fled political unrest about a decade ago now call the country home. Some have gone back voluntarily, but others are trying to reconstruct their lives despite closed borders and ongoing regional disputes. Diana Iriza spoke to some of them in the capital, Kigali.
Fabrice fled to Rwanda more than 10 years ago during a period of political unrest in Burundi. Even though he has distant hopes of returning back home permanently, his occasional visits are not easy.
Borders are closed between Rwanda and Burundi. For that, if you want to go to Burundi, you have to fly or either go through Tanzania.
Latest data from the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, shows that nearly 53,000 Burundian refugees and asylum seekers live in about 5 camps in Rwanda. About a fifth of them live in the capital, Kigali.
Burundian immigrants are settling in Rwanda for greener pastures. The business environment in Rwanda is much better than that one in Burundi. And also the proximity plays a role because Rwanda is not very far from Burundi. They believe that that's where they have security, that's where they can live a better life.
The Rwandan government says its openness is because it has a long history as a source and host of refugees and migrants, giving them access to education, healthcare and shelter in camps, even though job opportunities and work permits are limited.
I live in Rwanda as a migrant with no stable income to provide for my family, surviving on odd jobs because we fled Burundi without our documents.
But that's not the only challenge.
Burundi closed its borders with Rwanda in January 2024 after accusing Rwanda of funding rebel attacks. It's one of its latest closures prompted by political tensions and the COVID-19 pandemic.
Since 2019, the UN's refugee agency says thousands of Africans stuck in Libya on their way to Europe were temporarily relocated to Rwanda. Kigali has recently made relocation deals with the United Kingdom to receive undocumented migrants and US deportees. Like many others, Burundians who choose to live in the country, either by choice or circumstances, have to negotiate identity, culture, and survival. Diana Iriza, Africa Matters, Kigali, Rwanda.
To Nigeria now, where a ban on wooden passenger boats is raising concern. The federal government says it wants to curb deadly boat accidents and modernize the country's inland water transport system by urging states to phase out wooden vessels. But in riverine communities like Guni in Niger State, locals warn the policy is threatening livelihoods, saying safer and affordable alternatives should have come first. Our correspondent, Timothy Obiezu, has more from there.
This is Ashaita, a riverside community in central Niger State. People here know the cost of boat accidents all too well. Last July, 14 people died after an overloaded wooden boat, known locally as a goofer, hit a tree and sank. 20 passengers survived that day, but John Wakili's younger brother was among the dead.
I was in the market waiting for them to arrive when I got the news. I rushed back home and we started searching for him. It was until the following day we found his lifeless body.
The accident happened shortly after departure from this point. The boat was carrying mostly farmers heading to a nearby market with their produce. It was also reportedly loaded with more than 5 metric tons of rice and animals, including cows and goats. None of the animals or cargo was recovered. Samson Johanna was the boat operator on duty.
I still think about it and I feel bad. Everybody on the boat was looking up to me to save them. The boat wasn't even as loaded as it used to be.
Boat accidents are common along Nigerian waterways where safety regulations exist largely on paper, enforcement is weak, and compliance remains low. Data from the International Center for Investigative Reporting shows that some 1,200 people died in boat mishaps between January 2018 and October 2023, with Niger State recording the highest toll. In January, the government announced a ban on wooden passenger boats as part of a broader push to improve safety and modernize Nigeria's inland water transport. Authorities are also distributing tens of thousands of life jackets, conducting crew training, and creating public awareness on water safety.
We always have water marshals that patrol the water. And one of their major functions is to oversee all kinds of practices that may constitute risks in ferrying the water.
Nigeria currently has between 350 to 450 water marshals deployed nationwide, a number experts say is far too low for enforcing safety across waterways used by millions of people every year. Critics say the government must first provide a viable alternative.
They don't have any social amenities. Schools, road, hospital, and what have you. The government usually provides. There's no way that they will not use both, rather than to make a road, tie road for them, that they can be able to be convening their goods to the market.
The State Emergency Agency says the government is already providing newer fleets. Until then, many here say they have no option but to continue using the risky goofers. Timothy Obiezu, Africa Matters, Guni, Niger State.
To the eastern DRC city of Goma, where young girls are usually targets of horrendous abuse in armed conflicts. But some of them are turning to fashion for therapy. They're saying making handmade artwork, ceremonial outfits, and wedding dresses helps them forget the violence they went through when the M23 rebel group took over the region last year. Prosper Harry Ngorora reports from Goma.
Many in this region may not see value in fashion, but the Alinda Fashion House is trying to change that through the Sauti ya Mitindo Festival. It translates to Voice of Fashion, and it helped young girls affected by the war in Goma, Ituri and Bukavu express themselves despite the pain they have experienced while living through conflict.
It was an opportunity to show the world that there are courageous women in eastern DRC and in the Great Lakes region, to show their expertise and resilience in the face of war and violence. Despite all this, there are women who, with their courage, are improving and moving forward to give a positive image of this region.
Fashion designers from Canada, Rwanda and Kinshasa also took part in the one-day fashion festival held in December that was attended by nearly 500 people.
As soon as I entered the room, I forgot about the troubles at home and the trauma caused by the war. I focused on every detail of the dresses that had been made by these artists. It gave me a feeling of joy, but also presented me with a challenge.
Psychologists say fashion design could help these women cope with the devastating effect of war. After the capture of Goma by M23 fighters in January last year, health officials from Goma's only neuropsychiatric center says they've seen an increase of people suffering from depression and anxiety.
In clinical psychology, it is very important when you have a burden or trauma not to keep it to yourself. The most important principle is to talk about it in order to get it out. When you create, for example, in crafts, in art in general, it allows you to express yourself in one way or another.
Most people either buy imported clothes or customized African designs. But fashion designs here hope to help them find their unique voice and express it through their personal style. Prosper Herring Aurora, Africa Matters, Goma, DRC.
While in Kenya, designers are doing something a little different. They're using second-hand clothes bought from local markets to upcycle their collections. And they were on display on the Nairobi Fashion Week runway this year, where the theme was decarbonize. Can recycled garments and protecting the planet go hand in hand? Rumesa Choda finds out.
From second-hand clothes to stunning designs on the runway, Kenyan fashion designers are turning old garments into high-end collections.
I think it worked perfectly for me because 80% of the collection I showcased for today was all upcycled fabric. So I used those ones and created pieces that can still be, they look like fresh.
The fashion industry is one of the world's largest polluters, responsible for about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the UN. So, working with the theme decarbonizing, these designers made it their mission to not only work to upcycle old clothes, but also to reduce textile waste.
When you come down here to Africa, we are very sustainable. We use sustainable fabrics in developing our collections and pieces, but the message that is coming out of here, out of home, out of the home of the unit is for us to decarbonize.
Just a few kilometers away from the runway is East Africa's open-air Gikomba market, the source of much of this year's show upcycled materials. The Institute of Economic Affairs and the Mitumba Consortium say that more than 200,000 tons of second-hand clothes were imported in Kenya in 2024. The clothes that are not sold usually end up at a dump site.
You can open a bale and find that the quality and the fashion that you require to have is not going with the same with what you have in the mine. and what the customers do require.
Fashion designer Morgan Azedi targets dump sites for discarded clothes for reuse.
Someone has used it already and he's thrown it away. And me, as a creative designer, I just decided to take it and make it a new thing again.
Data from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology shows that the US, China, and the United Kingdom are the leading exporters of used clothing. Back on the runaway, designers are proving that both the second-hand traders and designers can work together to slow down fast fashion. Rumeysa Chodar, Africa Matters.
That's our show this week. Let us know what you think about the war in Sudan and how peace can be achieved by leaving your comments on the Africa Matters YouTube page or on X. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Brenda Zeda Redido.